Namaste, Prakriti ji.
Thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast.
We need to look at, the dharmic side of history also. So much that, Bharatvarsh contributed to the spiritual upliftment, not only of our,
the entire
side
world,
of the country,
entire
but the
humanity.
entire world.
Yeah,
Entire humanity.
yeah.
Entire humanity.
And that is one thing that we still are doing.
We're still doing that. Yeah. So even the G20 summit, the tagline was Vasudev Kutumbakam. So we are still doing it, and I think we'll continue to do it. And thanks to us, there is still the message of peace is still alive in the world. And thanks to Swami Vivekananda and all these other great spiritual guides that we've had, that the message of peace is still alive. And even I would like to share something interesting here. So when we talk about bhakti movement in in history, what was taught to us was that the bhakti movement was anti-caste. The spiritual aspect of bhakti movement was never taught. So the sadhana that the bhakti saints did.
Kriya, karma, jnana and bhakti. We have 4 marg, and there was a reason these 4 were created. People do not understand that without bhakti there is no way.
There is no way. That was never taught. It was anti-caste. That is the narrative. Anti-caste, anti-class, anti-patriarchy.
I didn't
These are the kind of things.
All these books, so I was very clear where bhakti would lead me.
Yes, obviously. So the spiritual aspect, whether you look at the saints, the saints from Maharashtra, or if you look at Lalde's work in Kashmir, if you look at the saints of Karnataka, all these people, ultimately it is a spiritual connection with the Almighty that they were focusing on and emphasizing. But that is something you will get to know only when you use your mind. That is not something when you
tapasya is necessary.
Right.
Otherwise you won't understand what they are talking about. Even your own rich history, and that is very true for even Indians of tomorrow. Bharatiya living in Australia or UK or America or wherever you are living does not matter. If you do not have a pure sattvic intellect, then you will not understand what kind of treasure you have with you.
Exactly. And we are a treasure trove. Yes. We know so. I mean, we have so much. I would not say that we know so much, because unfortunately most Indians don't know about their own history, which is very unfortunate. But there is so much. As I was mentioning to you, that the University of Nalanda, such a rich repository of writings and books and manuscripts. And unfortunately, the train station of Nalanda was, which was renamed recently, but it was known as Bakhtiyarpur by the name of Muhammad Bakhtiyar Khalji, who destroyed it.
Really? Wow.
Yes. Yeah, Bakhtiyarpur. So it is quite strange. I mean, you can discuss this as much as we want, and we'll still feel angry and agitated, but. Thankfully, some changes have happened. The Aurangzeb Road in Delhi is no longer known as Aurangzeb Road, so changes are happening. Okay. Allahabad is known as Prayagraj, so that change has happened. But we need to internalize our history more. We need to know more about our history. So when we talk about nowadays, of course, there's this entire cabal of the JNU cabal, I would say. Of course, there are a lot of dharmic people studying there also. There are a lot of dharmic professors there also. But when you talk about Akhand Bharat, for example, they say this is Hindutva propaganda. They shout from the rooftops, this is Hindutva propaganda. But it is not. Akhand Bharat is our reality. That is what Bharatvarsh was.
And will be.
And will be.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely. One day, definitely.
Yes.
So, and when the map of Akhand Bharat was put up in the new parliament, there was a furor. What is this? I mean, you have to recognize international borders. But from a civilizational perspective, I think that is what we are. And why not take pride in it? So there is something inherently wrong with, I would say, the way most Indians think, but there is changes are happening, of course. Changes are happening. There are people who are voicing their opinions, and especially over the last 10 odd years, 11 odd years, things are changing gradually, but it's something that is so ingrained in us that will take many more years to change. It will take many more, a lot of effort and many more years.
Amazing. You said you wanted to talk about Nalanda. It has I heard actually that I didn't read much about it, but it was inaugurated or something.
So the new university. So there's a Nalanda University now in the same vicinity as the ruins. So the ancient ruins are kept as it is, but there's a new university now, which was inaugurated recently by the Prime Minister. And it happened day before yesterday, I suppose. Yeah, day before yesterday. And it was basically a tribute to the great Nalanda University that was there in the 5th century. And there were so many, students, not only from the Indian subcontinent who studied there, but people came from even
China,
Iran, Indonesia,
Iraq,
China, everywhere. It was
the largest international university.
Yeah, and there was another one called Vikramashila. And Takshila. Takshila is, also, it's in the Punjab's, that side of Punjab, on the Pakistan side. Also, of course, part of Akhand Bharat. But so these 3 universities were very important for, as far as our, educational history is concerned. It was very important for the ancient period. And there were lots of scholars. In fact, Aryabhat was heading Nalanda at one point. So, ironically, as I was saying, that the Nalanda station was named Bakhtiyarpur over Bakhtiyar Khalji, and who burned down the library. In fact, there are some sources which also say that Bakhtiyar Khalji did not know that it is a center of learning. He thought it's a structure. It's such a huge structure. It must be a temple. So he thought, let us break it down.
How would he know about universities?
How would he know?
They were illiterate.
Yeah. They were illiterate, exactly. So, in all likelihood, he thought it to be a temple, and he broke it down and he vandalized it. The library was, which had so many manuscripts, and it was a repository of knowledge, and that was completely vandalized and burnt down, and it kept burning for 3 long months. That was the extent to which the destruction happened. But the beauty of it is that despite all this destruction, and despite whatever they did to us, you go to Kashmir, the Martan Sun Temple, the Jagannath Temple, all, I would say at least 90% of our temples, the great temples, including, of course, Somnath, which was destroyed many times, so many of them were destroyed. But the beauty of Hinduism is that we survived.
Yes.
So that is why we need to think about why.
No matter how many books are burnt, no matter whatever is burnt, we know how to get into Samadhi and download all the Gyan again. And that's a very serious thing. And we do that with our yogis all the time. Once you reach a certain level of consciousness and it expands, you can... And in Yoga Darshan, Maharshi Patanjali is specifically teaching that if you do a Sanyam Samadhi, we call it Samyama as well, but Sanyam Samadhi on your navel, on the North Pole, North Star, then you will get the knowledge of these many constellations, this, that.
Right.
So no matter whatever information is not there, some people will always, some will be Vairagis like me, some will always go for their journey and they will always download the Gyan. How can you delete it from there? See the beautiful tradition. And see the beautiful tradition of the way Samved is taught. So Samved, part of Vedas are recited orally and they are ingrained, so that, and that too to a different group of people. Now tomorrow if you gather all of them around, you get all the Ved back.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Ganga Aarti that takes place. So beautiful. I mean, the entire ritual around it. It is, and the students from the Banaras Hindu University, they are the ones who perform it. So it is kept alive.
I always tell people,
our traditions are always kept alive.
Yeah, I always tell people, don't think that, Bhagirath was one who brought the Ganga down, and just don't think Ganga is only of the water and the water that's flowing. Ganga is always and always of the Gyan. It's the flow of Gyan, and you need a Bhagirath, you need somebody to bring it down, and you want a Shivaji kind of energy, that Shiva kind of energy who can hold the Ganga.
Yeah, true.
Pure consciousness people will hold it, and we will always have it. So no matter how sinister plan these people outsiders can make, they can never destroy the civilization, the culture.
Yeah, and no matter what Macaulay wrote about our
these
knowledge.
These people will anyways fight and kill each other and die. So humanity won't survive for long. If humanity has to survive, then Dharma has to be there. And if Dharma has to be there, that means high consciousness people will always be there. So some people will always be there to keep the balance of, light and dark, or tamas and sattva.
Absolutely, yeah. So all their ideologies and whatever their ideas can remain as they are, but the fact of the matter is that we have survived and we have thrived, in fact.
Yes.
And we are still thriving.
Yes.
And I think this will continue, which is the good part of the story. But, if you look back at history, there is so much that, one can delve upon and one can feel bad about, and at the same time learn lessons from it, that why we shouldn't, believe what so many historians have made us believe for so many years. This is the kind of history that is not needed. Yeah. And what is the kind of history that is needed? The kind of history that is needed is the glorification of our own people, our own kings, our own dynasties. The history of Bharatvarsh is very glorious.
It's the truth that has to come out.
It's the truth. Yeah. Exactly. If we say that Krishna Deva Raya was a great king, if we say that, any one of these, Raja Dahir, actually thrashed the Arabs in 711, and he was also killed by treachery. So if we say that they were treacherous and that our kings were great, it is the truth.
Yes.
And the truth must prevail. So that is something that, is something that we need to, as historians, as authors, and in whatever capacity, we need to highlight that part of history, which is hidden in the pages. I would not say that it's completely, gone away, or it is completely, not written anywhere. There are some nationalist historians who did a lot of work particularly in the pre-independence period. So you have people like R.C. Majumdar and Jadunath Sarkar and all these nationalist historians. The nationalist school of thought, in fact, was a very important school of thought, which played a very important role. A lot of books were written by these scholars. But unfortunately, from the 50s, 60s onwards, when the Marxist schools started becoming prominent, they actually hijacked the entire education system. And particularly the writing of history. So, and then that is how all the brainwashing began. So generation after generation, these people, made people in our country believe that there was something wrong with you, which is why those invaders came. There was something wrong with you, which is why the British colonized you. There's actually nothing wrong with us.
No. War with dharma has to be fought.
Yeah.
That is what we did. And if you think fighting with adharma is the right thing to do, and then you don't know about karma, obviously.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. No, these spiritual concepts, the fact that Bharatvarsh is much beyond economic and political history is something that is never taught in the classrooms, and this is something that needs to be taught. This is something that the Gyan should be about our history, our yugas, the kind of the scriptures that we have, and what is the significance of those scriptures. Yes, of course, I would say that political history is equally important, but I think there needs to be a narrative shift, a paradigm shift, I would say, as far as history writing as well as history teaching is concerned. Because otherwise, there'll be another generation of people who would, grow up to believe that what the Marxist historians have written.
Unless they are like you.
Yeah, I mean, wherever I have taught, I have done my bit. But yeah, there needs to be more people. There needs to be more emphasis on the correct understanding, the correct narrative of history, which is so important.
Beautiful. Do you want to talk about your book? You wrote a beautiful book.
Yes.
Such an important book.
So my latest book has released recently in the month of May.
Do you have a copy? Would you like to show it here?
I do have a copy, but I haven't kept it with me.
Achha.
Right now.
Oh no!
So it's not with me. But yeah, I can share the title and what is it all about. So the book is called Hindu Heroes of Medieval Bharat: Resistance and Valor, 8th to 16th centuries. So this is the pre-Mughal period and all the invasions that took place. It's a very brief description of the invasions, of course, and how those invasions were dealt with by our kings, by the Hindu kings. So I start from the 8th century, early 8th century, with the Arab invasion of Sindh. And what is the general narrative? That, Sindh was conquered very easily. Muhammad bin Qasim did not have too much of trouble in conquering Sindh. But if you look at the pages of history, if you look at even the Persian and Arabic sources, it is mentioned very clearly that Raja Dahir, who was the king at that time of the Brahmin dynasty, he gave a very tough fight. It was only after so many days of battle, that the Arabs were able to defeat Raja Dahir, right? And they were not able to conquer the capital so easily. So this entire narrative of the Arabs winning over Sindh or taking over Sindh in a jiffy, in the blink of an eyelid, it did not happen that way. And even after the death of Raja Dahir, his son, Prince Jaisiya, kept on fighting. His wife, Rani Bai, kept on fighting. Wow. In fact, she also gave up all her gold and her ornaments to keep fighting for her soldiers, so that there's a reserve for the soldiers, their food and everything, their weapons, and the capital did not fall so easily. So this entire narrative of the Arabs taking over Sindh very easily is an entirely fake narrative, even if you go by the interpretation of the Persian and Arabic sources like Chachnama.
Okay.
And Kitab Futul Buldan and other Persian and Arabic sources. Similarly, if you look at the 8th century, the Arabs came again in the 8th century right after the conquest of Sindh within a gap of a few years.
Okay.
In that period also, you have so many of these, kings of Bharat. If you look at Kashmir, there is King Chandrapida of the Karkota dynasty, Lalitaditya Muktapidana, the very important name of the Karkota dynasty. From the Maitraka dynasty, you have Shiladitya 4 and Shiladitya 5. You have Pulakeshin from the Chalukya dynasty of Navsarika in Gujarat. Then Nagbhata 1. In fact, historian R.C. Majumdar has very rightly called the Gurjara Pratiharas. Nagbhata 1 belonged to that dynasty of Malwa. The Gurjara Pratiharas have been referred to as the bulwark against Islamic invasions in the 8th century. So, but for them, more Arab invasions would have taken place in the 8th century. So the Arabs were actually not allowed to enter. We challenged them. We pushed them back. So you have Bappa Rawal, of course, of the Gohila, king of Mewar. You have the Sandhava dynasty. There were 2 kings, Krishna Raja 1, Aguka 1. They were from Saurashtra, which was also in Gujarat. So the western part of India at that time, the dynasties, they were very, very active. So we cannot brush them aside and say that is not our history. In the 8th century, if you see so many of these dynasties and so many of these kings, they played a very important role in repelling the Arab conquests. Otherwise, there would have been many more Arab conquests and, the invaders would have done a lot more harm to us than they actually did. So that, of course, is something that is a part of my book. Then there's, of course, the Turkish invasions that started happening with the Ghaznavids to begin with. There was Alaptijin and then followed by Subuktajin and Mahmud of Ghazni. And the major, challengers to the Ghaznavids were the Hindu Shahis. The Hindu Shahis had their kingdom which corresponds to the present day Kabul Valley. So that is why I was talking about Akhand Bharat, and why people have a problem with Akhand Bharat, which actually, if you go back in time and see, it is actually Akhand Bharat, right? So the Ghaznavids, their territory corresponded with the Kabul Valley and the Gandhar region and western part of Punjab. And King Jaipal, King Bhimadeva, Trilochan Pal, so many of these kings of the Hindu Shahi dynasty. In fact, Raja Jaipal was so brave that he took on an offensive. He went on an offensive and he entered Ghazni to counter the attacks of Mahmud of Ghazni. This is something that not many people would know of. There are not only textual sources that talk about this, there are also inscriptional sources that talk about this. And apart from that, you had the Loharas of Kashmir, the Chandelas, the Parmaras, the Chauhans. There are a lot of texts which talk about these. But what we need to do is that we need to have the intention, the right intention, to go and read those texts and cull out that information and present it, right? So that is something that we need.
I think that all those adults like you, like me especially, those who were from the science background or any background for that matter, but even now we have to buy your history books, the books that you guys are writing these days, and we must read them now, because we didn't get to read them in school. We are not going back to school, and not everything can be learned from podcast or YouTube or any place like that. It's plain simple thing. You have to sit down and read the books. Period.
Absolutely.
So now it is even more important that somebody's children, maybe teenagers or maybe in college, and now you have time, just go ahead, pick up the books and read it. To fix your narrative in your head, and that way, at least to your grandchildren, to your children, you will be able to guide them properly, that no, this didn't happen, that's a wrong narrative, here is the truth. You will be able to give them books actually, that read this, read that, and at times, especially parents living in Western countries, and when they are Indians, Hindu Indians, they have this, with their children, soon when they are teenagers, they start getting out of hands in a way. Because of the cultural impact and anything. And somewhere, if the parent has this shame, sort of guilt about them being an Indian, that is what reflects in the child as well. And I have seen this with so many parents. Some of us who are proud Indians, no matter what you do, whether we read any wrong history, right history, or whatever, at least we caught the dharmic and spiritual aspect of it. And that went into our children. So they didn't become like, oh, India is a third world country, India has this thing wrong, caste system, this, that. They don't catch that. They don't believe it that easily. Because of at least the dharma, one leg of dharma was still standing, so we could. But in a lot of parents, that's a problem here.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine,
it's a serious problem. You are that generation which is being raised right now, like people my age have 21-year-old. That generation does not know themselves. Their roots have been cut off, and that has a serious repercussions throughout their life that they are going to face, that they will never know themselves as Indians, as proud Indians, proud Bharatiya. They wouldn't know that. And whenever there is a problem or something, they will be more like, Americans or Australians here. It's a sad story. And I see that happening every now and then. Only when you are connected to your roots, you are grounded. You are rooted.
Absolutely.
You know what is right, what is wrong, what is actually sukha and dukkha. The whole definition of it, you wouldn't understand until you know the truth about your own culture and country. And recently I wrote an article in one of the Dartmouth College's Vedic Science journal. They publish monthly. So there about a Nagrik. What's the difference between a Nagrik and a citizen? So what difference does it make? So, and I was saying, regardless of the fact that I may be an Australian citizen, I'm still a Bharatiya Nagarik.
Right, right.
And that's
Yes,
who
it
I
is that
will be.
spiritual connection. Yeah,
The dharma.
the
I'm
dharmic
like a
connection.
walking, talking Bharat all the time.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's a dharmic connection
It's a dharmic
that can
connection.
never be
Adhyatmic
lost.
connection.
Yes, yes,
How can
absolutely.
how
And the sad part is parents living abroad. I can still imagine that that they have this problem of raising their kids in the dharmic way. That's happening in India too.
Ah.
In that's why I was saying that in my when I was introducing myself, I was saying that thanks to my parents that even living in Delhi, I got this kind of an upbringing because what is happening is that parents don't have time nowadays, and children are just going wayward. They're just getting swayed by what they're seeing online and social media and everything, and then they unfortunately some of them land up in JNU and all these institutions where their thinking is then magnified, and it's a narrative war, I would say. I would use the term narrative war because it's a battle which one needs to win
It's
at the
always a
end of the day.
sattvic intellect versus tamasic intellect war.
Absolutely,
It's always going
absolutely.
on.
It's always going on, and unfortunately, it is still going on. But there is some ray of hope, as I was mentioning, that some structural changes are taking place, but a lot of things need to be done. So, like writing or speaking about historical narratives, and this is something that one can do, and the students also. I would say that if you're a history student or if you're a political science student, get into the depth of it. Don't restrict yourself to what is given in your reading list. Only if you get into the depth of it will you understand that what is probably being taught to you is not the correct history. To do some additional reading, that is the effort that one needs to make on their own. So that is something that needs to be done.
How did you get an inspiration to write this book, The Hindus and Heroes?
The Hindu heroes. So I was doing a lot of research from my college days onwards. As I told you, I used to do a lot of extra reading. And with that reading, of course, I got an inspiration to write my first book, which was Reclaiming Hindu Temples, Episodes from an Oppressive Era, which came out in 21. And when I was doing my research for that book, I started, reading episodes of resistance wherever I could find them. So when I was going through these Persian sources, also when they talk about, they talk about Hindu kings from a very, very derogatory sense, but there are references to how these Hindu kings, whom they refer to as kafirs, they challenge these powerful Islamic invaders and kings. So when I was researching for my first book, I also started making notes for all these challenges that were thrown open in front of these invaders. So from there, I felt that we need to start rewriting our histories. It is so important that we need to tell people that these are the people who played a role in your history, not the invaders, not the colonizers, none of them. It were these heroes, these unsung heroes of Indian history that you need to know about. Yes, know about the fact that invasions did take place, colonization of India did take place, but you must understand that we were greater than them. Yeah. We were much more than them, and we surpassed what they did. We were always one step ahead. So the way Raja Dahir countered Muhammad bin Qasim, you need to know that. You should not stop at Muhammad bin Qasim's invasion of Sindh. You should also look at what Raja Dahir and what his son and his wife did.
It's a great lesson in statecraft, actually. And
yes,
political
absolutely.
side of it. It's not that it's just history and history. No, you have to read it from different mindsets to understand the politics, the geopolitics of the entire world of that time. It helps you understand the economy, the trade. Everything. It helps you understand the social science of these places. So many different perspectives we can read it from.
Absolutely. So the Arabs, in fact, they had, started invading the Indian shores much before they invaded Sindh. So the Arabs had started coming in the 640s, 650s during that time also, in the 7th century also. But every time they were thrashed. And, they were asked to, they were challenged in a way that they could not make inroads. So there's Muhammad bin Qasim, who was a 19-year-old person. He was then sent to invade. So there were economic ties with Arabia, with even pre-Islamic Arabia. When Islam had not been established, we had economic ties with trade relations with Arabia. So that was there. But once Islam was introduced, they became, there was this zeal of proselytism that we need to spread the religion. So that is when, they became even more, you can say, violent. And so this invasion happened, and then the book also talks about, as I said, the Ghaznavids, and it talks about the Ghurid invasion and how, the Hindu kings repelled the Ghurids also. As I was saying, that Prithviraj Chauhan actually defeated Muhammad Ghuri in the first battle of the Rhine. It was only in the second battle that he won. So this is something that a lot of people won't know about because the textbooks don't tell us anything. The manner in which Bakhtiyar Khalji, the destroyer of Nalanda, how he was challenged by the king of Assam, the king of Kamrup, Raja Prithu. That is something that people need to know. The way Bakhtiyar Khalji was challenged by the king of the Eastern Ganga dynasty. That is something that one needs to know. So, Raja Lakshman Sena of the Sena dynasty. Then the Eastern Ganga dynasty, Narasimha Deva, he also challenged the Khalji Maliks of Bengal. Iltutmish was challenged. Raja Jaitra Simha of the Guhila dynasty challenged the Turkish army. And then, of course, coming to the Khalji dynasty, the Khaljis were the ones who expanded their, territories. They were not happy with harassing the, regions and the people in the north. They wanted to expand to the Deccan. So when they go to the Deccan, when Alauddin Khalji sent his army to the Deccan, the Yadava dynasty of the Deccan again gave him a befitting reply. His son Simhana gave him a befitting reply. So Alauddin Khalji is shown as, a king who grabbed all the land very easily, but that was not the case. And also the fact that, there is another narrative that Hindus were never united. But if you look at the Ghaznavid conquests, there was a confederacy that was formed in defeating the Ghaznavids. When the Ghurids came, again a confederacy was formed for defeating the Ghurids. So Hindu kings did get united. So this is also a false narrative that we need to question.
This narrative goes on even today. I see a lot of Hindus saying, oh, this happened here. So we had some temple desecration that happened here. We had some Khalistani extremism that has happened here in Melbourne, in Sydney. And a lot of such things have happened. And people just keep saying, oh, Hindus are not united. Oh, Hindus are not united. No, that's not true. We wouldn't be alive as a civilization, world's oldest civilization. We wouldn't be alive if we wouldn't have been united in the thought, in the doing, and in the speech. So we have been very much united.
Absolutely. We've always been united, and even politically we did get united. There was a the first Hindu confederacy, the second Hindu confederacy, which was established to defeat these invaders. So it is a very, very wrong idea that Hindus were not united, and which is why these invasions could happen.
Yeah,
so these invasions happened, yes, but we repelled them.
Yes, and what people do not understand is fighting the war with dharma is one thing, and fighting the war with complete adharma and inhumanness is not something that was in the consciousness of dharmic and spiritual people that we are.
Why is it so important to know about our heroes and take pride in what they did? So it's very, very important, and these things people are not aware of, and the sad part is even educated people are not aware of this, are not aware of our actual history. So that is something
all of
that
us educated ones didn't get any education from a school or college system.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
They did make us, people who can earn and live well.
Right.
But other than that, no dharmic education, nothing like that.
Nothing. None of us, in fact, got any
nothing
dharmic education,
about
which
our
is
Hindu identity, Bharatiya identity, dharmic identity, nothing like that.
Nothing of that sort. Nothing was ever taught to us.
No.
Of course, in my school, thankfully, I didn't go to a missionary school. I went to a public school. So during the, during high school, I think a couple of times there was Havan and Puja that was organized. But in my college, there was no Saraswati Puja, no nothing. Even the goddess of knowledge, learning was not honored. So that is something that it does happen in some institutions. It does happen, but very few.
Yeah.
And this is the scenario in India. Yeah. So it's very disheartening.
What would you like to tell the adults and any message that you would like to give people about, exploring all this, and how can they start exploring? Where to start actually?
One message I would like to give is read.
Okay.
Yeah. As much as you can. Don't go by what comes on WhatsApp. Don't go by what little information is given in one paragraph on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, or what you read on, say, LinkedIn. Social media is very important. I would say it's a very important medium for reaching out. Okay, but go to the libraries, pick up those books and read. That is the only thing that will broaden your horizons. That will probably help in making you more argumentative about history, about anything, any branch of knowledge. That will also help you in knowing more about the history of science, the history of astronomy, the history of women, or the history of our culinary traditions, even the basics. I can say like the history of textiles in India. These are your everyday histories. So one should read about it. One should go into the depths of it. And to this generation of learners, I would just say that there is no alternative to acquiring knowledge through reading. That is the only way.
Yeah.
What you get in those 2 paragraphs or 1 paragraph on social media is not enough. Keep yourself informed about what is happening globally. Keep yourself informed about what is happening in the domestic space in terms of politics, society, culture, economy, everything. But also travel back in time and pick up Jadunath Sarkar's works, pick up R.C. Majumdar's works, read them. Because that is our nationalist history of Bharatvarsh that needs to be read. And then only you can form a perspective. Don't form a perspective just by reading one history book or by what you've read in your
people become too much opinionated, everybody wants to have their opinion without doing any thorough research, without reading anything, and just having opinions left and right, and then being very emotional about their opinion.
Absolutely. And having you can say, what's it called? Having no knowledge is better than having half knowledge. Half knowledge is something that it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. So you can only broaden your horizons by reading, and read everything. Read everything. So if you read something critical about our civilization online, if you happen to read something online which is critical, go and read something which is positive. That will, give you 2 different perspectives, and then you decide what you want to, how you want to identify yourself as a dharmic person, you want to take pride in your identity, in your being a Bharatiya, or you want to go with that negative narrative.
You want to be a victim of history, or you want to be the hero of the history?
Absolutely, absolutely.
They were our ancestors, right?
Absolutely.
All these people were our ancestors. You can't say that we didn't belong to that line of blood. All of us belong to that great kings and dynasties bloodline. So you can either be a victim or you can be a hero. You decide. But first of all, at least read it.
Right, absolutely. Read it. It's very important, and it's just very easy for you to say, "Oh, history is about dates, and I'm not interested, and I'm not, keen
No,
to
history is
read."
about
But
narrative. Who I
history is
am.
about narrative.
It's part of who am I
Exactly. It is about
inquiry that we do. First of all, fix
exactly,
the broken Indian identity. First of all,
absolutely, and
then
that
only you
that can
will be able
happen.
to give it up during your tapasya and samadhi.
Absolutely, that can only happen if you read history,
Ah,
the actual history.
the truth.
Right. So my book is like a very you can say it's a humble attempt to bring out that narrative. So. But a lot of nationalist historians who are now relegated to the margins, no one recommends their readings. Those works also need to be read. And a lot of scholars who are writing these days, their works, of course, also have a lot of meaning. So reading, I would say there is no alternative to reading, and reading extensively.
Ah. Thank you so much, Chandini ji, for giving us your thoughts and so much of work that you have done. And I'm sure the seekers would understand the importance of truth even in this matter as well. It's not just the war of narratives or something. It's about truth. And truth is one of the most important pillar of dharma that is there in the world. It is about the truth. And you not knowing the truth, instead believing or harboring any kind of untruth or lies in you is equivalent to Bhranti Gyan. That is what Maharishi Patanjali in Yoga Darshan calls at Bhranti Gyan. That Bhranti Gyan can happen to you about yourself, your desh, kal, everything. About the cosmos, about Devi, Devata, Shakti, this, that, Paramatma. Bhranti Gyan can happen to you about anything. So you have to fix that. And it may be you can start doing that by the history itself. And then you go on taking it in the higher matters. Not right away you will understand the Veda and download it. So you can start with dispelling the ignorance that is there about it. So that is very important. Thank you so much, Chandni ji,
Thank you
for
so
being
much for
with us
having me.
here. And
Thank you
we'll
so much for
definitely
having me,
do
Prakriti ji.
another podcast with you about the other book that you have, Reclaiming Temples. That is something very close to my heart, because of all temples were not just the place of going and doing rituals, and they were the place of gyan, they were the place of samadhi, they were the place of bhakti, kriya, anything that so we'll definitely make another podcast with you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I would be very glad to speak to you again about the other book on temples and why we need to understand what happened to them. Only then we can reclaim them.
Yes,
right?
definitely. So, we need to know what is wrong.
We need to know what is wrong. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.